In Matthew 24, there is a pretty stark warning from the Lord to those of us who will be around during the time of the end. See to it that none of you are deceived. You know, we have the Bible, we have the very Word of God, but, you know, there's also the free will element that's built into every part of it. By the way, check out the change of scenery here. This is a work truck. This is not my truck. That would be great, but that would mean I could afford it. But anyway, I'm in between customers, so I figured I would film this because this is a constant inquiry. You know, what do the miracles look like? What do the deceptions look like? Well, other than the obvious, you know, the once saved, always saved, the pre-trib rapture, the things that keep people off guard, keep people unlearned about the things that we should be paying attention to and looking out for. There's a technological aspect that the Bible kind of alludes to a few different times, you know, and also a scientific, again, I always say these things loosely because science is another way of saying man's perception, which we're told that we're in the dark and we're blind. So I always put the quotes in there because it's a grain of salt situation. There are on the horizon a number of different things that are being pointed out. I noted in a video, I don't know, a month or so back, about how, you know, Google engineers and scientists and whatnot, sorcerers, are essentially stating that, you know, the whole notion of physical death and people living, you know, these relatively short years on Earth are within less than a decade away from being conquered scientifically. We also have the looming threat, and we're repeatedly warned about this on a constant basis from some big name folks that I've alluded to in other videos as well. One that would, I think, best qualify as the potential for the false prophet. That AI is one of the things we need to be on the lookout for. Daniel 11, I believe 37, I think I've alluded to this as well, essentially points to a god, or, you know, godlike entity that the Antichrist will worship and venerate, that seemingly is on a world scale, in a sense, indestructible. You know, a god of fortresses, a god of bulwark, a god of seemingly impenetrable defenses, if you will. We now have, at least from what we're being told, we now have AIs that can officially, no matter what, under just about any circumstance that can be put across its plate, essentially guarantee like no masterminding of a human over its capacity. In other words, we've got AI bots, in a sense, that can utterly wreck the world's most efficient and effective chess players, for example. Not that chess players are the sign that the end has come, but that we've come to a place where humans have been able to, likely with the help of demons, I'll just be frank about that, there seems to be a lot of that stuff that's gone on in our history, that are capable of superseding anything that humans have ever been able to produce. Now, this same technology that these Google scientists and AI researchers that are claiming will likely be overseeing and masterminding, you know, these, for lack of a better way to put it, and I don't mean this in the literal sense, because, you know, if you can't conquer sin and pay for things the way our Lord did, there's no amount of immortality on this earth that could actually matter, especially when there's the Holy God looming about, ready to react righteously in vengeance. So these AI bots, you know, they're being put in charge of telemedicine and whatnot. You know, they're able to map out, you know, scientific biochemical pathways in the body. Don't want to get too technical because what's the point? But essentially, they're able to keep track of information and the depths of the human, what we've come to know as the genome, to such a degree that they're able to specialize new procedures, new medicines, new chemical approaches to alopecia as we understand it, the type of medicine that we practice. Basically wait for something to come up and then throw something at it. The robots are capable of getting to the relative heart of the matter, and maybe to the actual very heart of the chemical matter, not the spiritual, sinful side of things, to such a degree that they're able to supersede anything humans have been able to do, right? So it seems as though, and this is all speculation, by the way, in no way do I claim, again, to be any kind of prophet, to see any kind of future, to have heard any kind of word. But from what I've seen and from what I know of the word, and from what, we can at least reasonably expect at this point, is that if in fact Antichrist's God is AI, his father, that kind of leaves us, I don't want to say it leaves us relatively confined, but that kind of confines us to a certain type of miracle that he'll be able to perform, right? And the Lord calls it a deception. He says, don't be deceived. So it's all technically a lie, and technically, just like with Jannes and Jambres, the court magicians in Pharaoh's time, they weren't actually able to, they weren't able to utterly perform everything the way that Moses did, but to a great enough degree that it fooled the people, and it also fooled Pharaoh into thinking that he had the gods on his side, right? So there's a certain amount of deception that humans are willing to accept so as to continue on in their false beliefs and their evil points of view, so they get that feeling of getting what they want. That's essentially what it's all about. Because free will, it dictates that even if we do know the absolute truth about something, we can choose not to believe it. And that is why faith is so imperative in this life, and what you have faith in, and why it's so imperative to choose the Lord over the lie. Although the lie is so strong that if we choose to allow it, it is enough to poison our minds and our spirits to that position of being able to take us away, and we can sell our soul, I guess. So what I'm envisioning, and again, not a vision, but just like my mind's eye is conceptualizing, is what if Antichrist can, of course with the help of Satan, control robots, control machinery? What happens if a series of AI come out that act maliciously, that are, likely being controlled by demons themselves, but are set to wreak havoc upon the earth, and the only one that can technically control them, perhaps with his mind or his spiritual connection with his father, because there's going to be some pseudo Christian-esque type of relating his relationship to his quote-unquote God, so as to be able to fool even the elect, right? And the real issue that the Bible points out over and over and over again is that people are selling their eternal inheritance for a mess of pottage, essentially for a worldly, temporary, seemingly sound answer to all of their problems, or at least the problems that they see as being what really is going on, the major issue, at least in their life. Because again, it's about selfishness, it's about self-centeredness, what they see in their lives that they want and what they're willing to give up for it. And we see many, many examples of that all throughout the Bible. I think the biggest one that is referred to in the New Testament is how God hated Esau. It's not that God hated Esau like the way that humans hate each other out of anger and vile distaste. It's that he set up the entire world to essentially curse sinners that decided to abandon God and abandon their birthright into sin, right? So allowing them to go off into a life of sin and evil and whatnot, and allowing, their sinful choices to devour them, is the same thing as allowing them to, it is utterly the same thing as allowing them to become the enemy of the holy creator God, right? So, we're having all these weird things happen in the sky. We're having all these medical issues happening. We're having, all of this online manipulation, all this political nonsense that's going on. I don't think it's beyond possible that Satan is going to use these technologies to, on one hand, bus roll, in other words, throw under the bus, if you will, all the obvious bad guys that are out there for now, or at least a portion of them, the lower end ones. Because make no mistake, in Daniel 11, there's also a description. Is it Daniel 11 or Daniel 7? He's talking about the horn. It's one of the two. I'm sorry. I've been at work all day. This has been on my mind. Essentially, Daniel alludes to a small group of people being the source of Antichrist's power, meaning that everybody that's underneath them, that's been used to, control others, that's been used to pollute our political atmosphere to such a point to cause all of these different issues, that Antichrist will come in and fix them all. And it does stand to reason that will be a gigantic rug being pulled out from under the feet of the faithful, the patriotic, those that genuinely want to see the right thing get done, that are not keeping their eyes on the Lord. They will see all of these worldly revenges. They'll see all these injustices on some level taken care of. And make no mistake, guys, the Lord repeatedly warns all of the evil on earth that one day their nonsense will be discovered. He repeatedly warns that they will pay for what they've done. So don't think for a split second that any of these things that could or likely will happen to these evil people isn't the judgment of God, but it's being enacted by Satan specifically to fool us, right? So just the same way that Babylon, who took over Israel initially, was said to be a weapon in God's hand, they were also judged and cursed for the evil choice of taking over the Israelites thereafter. So just because it's seemingly a part of Satan's plan doesn't mean that God isn't actively putting it to use in his plan, because he supersedes everything and superintends everything to such a degree that, like, Satan doesn't even think he's, a tool, but he is. Anybody who works against God, anybody who thinks that they are actually doing anything to hurt the Lord, is actually working into his favor. When you guys hear about all these, horrible things happening to kids, they are horrible, but you have to understand that, these psychopaths with this idea that they are somehow directly hurting God, in all of their evil acts, it's all working against them, and they don't even know it. They'll know it soon. They'll see it, and they'll have to accept it, because it'll be put right in front of them right before they get cast into the lake that they chose to go to by rejecting him and then proceeding on in their evil. But anyhow, I see AI being controlled by Antichrist himself. I see technology in general being given over utterly into his power. I see the mark of the beast as potentially, because it's a real mark, guys. It's not going to be a chip. They're not going to go out of their way to fool you into taking it. It literally requires your willful adherence and utter rejection willfully of Christ. So it's going to be a mark, but there's going to be something to it, that is miraculous on a world scale that we have never seen before. And honestly, with all of the anti-aging tech that's out there right now, all of the research that's going into, don't take my word for it, and this is not the end all be all, but look into David Sinclair and some of his work and some of the what they call Yamanaka factors. They're going out of their way to figure out ways to turn back the epigenetic aging clock on our cells. And although it's probably not every single answer necessary to, bring us back to our, relative genetic purity, because they're never going to be able to make us perfect. And even during the Nephilim experience in Genesis 6, there's no sign that the creatures that were on earth were perfect. That it's just that they were likely large, likely powerful, likely smarter than the normal human being by quite a bit, likely. But they were all still utterly sinful, and they were all still utterly godless. So in no way will this mark actually bring about true perfection, just feigned perfection, and just enough that perhaps, those who have been waiting on the Lord their whole life, who selfishly were hoping to not have to go through all the aches and pains of aging, which I just turned 40 and I get it, I'm trying to take care of myself, but it's really tough. And Satan definitely has a vested interest in us making bad decisions and beating ourselves up, because he always ends up using it against us. And of course, it is rewarded when we accept our gray crown and move on into our older years and take the burdens of life faithfully, which is hard, guys. It's so hard. But we have to remember that this is all going to seem like a blink of an eye once it's over with. And once all of these miracles are being performed in our face, the big thing that we'll have to resist is the desire to feel like it can all be done again. It can all be unwound. You know, the true God wouldn't allow us to suffer like this in this life. Well, yeah, he would, but he's also made quite clear that we're all going to be so eternally rewarded. Even those of us that really suck at this Christian walk, by the way, guys, make no mistake. The least rewarded Christian in heaven, the gatekeeper, the guy holding the door open for everybody else, is going to be happier than anybody who might ever get a kingship in hell. That's just how it's going to be. I see technology taking massive advances forward, medicine taking massive advances forward. There's even a chance, guys, that some of this technology will be released before the mark is an official thing, you know? They'll do some experiments on some people, and maybe they'll be, you know, pre-chosen. Who knows? Maybe the false prophet himself will have this technology upon himself before everybody else, and it'll be part of the reason why he's so popular. I'm going to do a video on an update on that guy real quick too, because he is it's so funny. On one side he's always, I'm on your team, guys, free speech, yada yada. On the other side, WF members getting in charge of things that have no business being in charge of really anything, because they've already proven that they're all a bunch of, well, evil fools and godless and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I see a massive advance forward in medical science, as they call it. I see, you know, AI being harnessed and tamed, if you will, like a beast, by the beast. I see all of the evil that's in the world right now, or at least the stuff that's on the surface that's easy to see, being thrown under the bus and basically made the scapegoat and used as a distraction. I mean, honestly, if all stands to reason and everything, you know, is on track to be nothing like it's ever been, I mean, there's even a chance, not that I'm ever a proponent of this, but there's a chance that he won't even disarm us, you know? He won't even have to. You know, he'll have so much control over the culture that we'll put our arms to his use, you know? So I don't know, I just thought I would muse about some of these things, because this is stuff that I'm sure many think about. I don't think it's going to be the classic sense, the classic design, the classic style of miracle. You know, miraculous healings we've been divorced enough from them, you know, like the hands-on, in your face, absolutely undeniable. There's plenty of people that fake it. There's plenty of people that make proclamations, plenty of false prophets out there, guys. But we haven't seen something that's utterly undeniable for some time. And if science and technology keeps giving more and more credence on the world scale, because I mean, we've gotten to a point to where everything is essentially equal, even to Christians. You know, we've accepted the gay culture, we've accepted trans culture. We haven't accepted the crazy side of it, but that, I think, is another part of the shaking a stick in your face. And we'll slowly work ourselves back to a political center, if you will, where everybody gets along. But then again, they're all going to rally under one beast, two beasts technically. So I have a feeling that watching this particular likely false prophet person is going to be a really, really good clue and cue to see who the beast might actually be. And who's to say that the beast doesn't take part in these technologies too? Who's to say that the beast isn't old and then made young again? You know, I don't think Trump would qualify technically, but I mean, what if all those years were unwound and he all of a sudden was, you know? Maybe not. Remember, in Daniel, he's a little horn. He starts out small and then grows and overtakes all the others. So I think he's disqualifiable as somebody, as having a grand standing on the world scale. But he will definitely have some really fancy tricks that fool even the elect here not too long from now. So just be on the lookout. Don't get your feathers ruffled. Don't let these things get to you. Yes, death will keep happening. Evil people will keep being evil. And if we're able to do something about it, we should. But The end was told long ago for a very good reason, and it's clearly swirling to a very, very specific apex. And the swirling is faster, tighter, and quicker. I had somebody tell me the other day, he's like, things used to happen every 10 years, then every 5, then every few, and then every year, and then every 6 months, and then every 2 months. And now it seems like something every day. Durham report and all this other nonsense that we all knew was going on, of course. But again, I think that's part of it too. I think that's part of the nonsense. I think that's part of the show. Anyway, comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'm sorry to ramble, guys. This is something I'm sure a lot of folks think about. Truth of the matter is it's only really going in one direction. And again, I don't claim to know these things, but it's kind of hard to deny that this is that this won't likely be a part of the end game. Anyway, I hope you guys are all doing well. I'm sorry for the inconsistency in the videos. I'd like to get back into more of the deep teaching stuff. Work has just been pretty grueling, to be honest. I'm hoping things work out. If you guys would pray for me, that'd be awesome. I'm sure he would listen. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, do all the things. I hope this helps you. I hope this helps you strengthen yourself. I hope you guys aren't sitting around full of worry, and that you're taking care and you're putting your family first, and you are not stopping, walking with the Lord, being forgiven, gaining those rewards on that narrow road to Zion. Talk to you soon.